All right, Lauren, gonna work maple again today. Probably gonna video this whole session. Getting a little bit better. That backup thing's something I've been working on quite a bit. Okay, so plan for today is I'm gonna loper on groundwork a fair bit. Hopefully not a long time, but I want to get quite a bit of loping in. Her groundwork's getting pretty good, especially walk trot. Everything's really nice. Getting into the lope is not always the best on the ground, but I want to make sure she lopes some, and then pretty quick I want to get the bridle on and jump on her back and start riding. So we want to do most of the time today in the saddle if possible, but I'm going to start out with the groundwork, make sure it goes good. Got my flag out there somewhere. Oh no, it's over there. So I'm not going to talk much today about like background of this horse and all this stuff because I've got a bunch of videos up that already, I've got a lot of previous videos of this horse if you want to know more about who she is and where we're at. So I'm really just going to get to work. You might not be able to hear me very well out in the middle of the arena. So I'm pretty much just going to get to work and not talk a whole lot about it. Okay, so I'll talk just a little bit about that because you don't know what's going on. You might think that looks a little Western or a little like I'm being mean to her, but I'm not. She needs to learn to yield her shoulders, yield her face, yield her space in general. And you can see now she's looking and chewing because what I got to right at the very end there, she finally yielded that shoulder out of the way. We lifted her shoulders and let her head come down because I was pulling down on her head the entire time. And she never was yielding to that. She's pulling away, bracing, and throwing her shoulders in at me in a defensive way. And when she finally yielded to that and let her head come down, that's when she got the release and the reward. And then you can see now she's already in a much better mind state, right? So when you're thinking about that's mean to the horse, right? There are definitely things that are mean to the horse. But look at the end state that you get from it. In my opinion, it's not mean to the horse if what you get at the end is a nice, focused, relaxed horse that's ready to work with you. If I had finished that little interaction and she finished, oh my gosh, and worked up and nervous and scared and everything, well then yeah, that would have been mean because we don't want to leave our horse in a worked up, nervous, anxious, nobody likes anxiety, right? Most of America is taking medicine for anxiety. It's considered an illness. So don't leave your horse in an anxious state, but there are some pretty severe measures I had to take there to get her, hey, yield to me when I ask you to yield, and then you get that relaxation. So anyway, I'm not going to spend too long talking about that. So kind of a good example of working on something that I was never planning on working on coming out here, but one of the first things I usually do when I untie them from the fence is just back them away from the fence so we have a little bit of working room. And it just reminded me that her backing has been so terrible from day one. You can see what she tends to do is, when a horse backs, they should arch their back, lift their shoulders, and pick their feet up and step back, right? Just like with a human, if I was going to back, I would pick my foot up, pull it back, and walk backwards, right? Well, you can see what she does is she tends to just lower her front end to the ground and stick her butt in the air like this and get all off balance. And then she kind of just drags her front feet back and doesn't really she never actually picks up her feet and moves back athletically. So something she needs a lot of work on, and it's not just, she just doesn't move her body very well in the back. It's not just that, it's that she's not yielding to my space, okay? Just like at the beginning when I was talking about, I don't remember what I was talking about at the beginning, but I was talking about yielding space to me, right? So there's 5 main yields. This all comes from a guy named, I forgot his name, but it's The Natural Horseman if you look him up on YouTube, and he has up some really good stuff that I've kind of adopted into my program. And so the 5 yields are forward yield, which is typically okay with her at the walk, especially like when you point, she'll pretty much go. But you remember her go yield was pretty bad trying to get her to the trot before, and now it's pretty bad trying to get her to the low. So the go yield needs work. There's the backwards yield, which obviously needs work. She's not yielding. I'm hitting this flag on her chest pretty hard, saying, hey, get out of my space. And she's not like, oh, let me get out of here. So that backwards yield's not working. The hind end yield, which works okay. There's the shoulder yield, which works okay with her sometimes. Yesterday, she stepped really hard on my foot because I came up here and we were standing at the rail, and I just kind of asked the shoulder to move that way. Just kind of bumped her here with my fingers and just asked that shoulder to move over. And instead of just taking these feet and moving them that way, like she should, she stepped this foot way over here on my foot. So basically, instead of going that way, she went boom, and then jumped that way. And fortunately, my foot was fine, but she got smacked all the way on top of my foot. It's so her shoulder yield's not always working. And then there's, I call it drift, basically shoulders and hips at the same time when they're going around, moving them out sideways like that. Kind of like a half pass. But really the 4 important ones at this stage are that go, stop, hips, shoulders. And so, I want to get all 5 of those working. So anyway, let's do a little bit more. Well, I don't want to harp on that backwards yield right now because I think her muscles are getting tired. That's definitely something that she needs more work on. Lauren, when you do get this horse back, I would come out here and work on those 5 yields a lot with her. All right, go yield. Oh, that go yield doesn't seem to be working very well. If you watch that back, and you notice, as I told her to go, where did all that back? There she's going forward. Forward was not her first reaction to that go cue was not a go yield, right? See how much she's going down stopping here? Now I love that she's tuned into me and she's asking to stop. She's looking at me like, hey, can I stop now? Can I stop now? I like that versus the horse running off. But when I ask you to go, very clearly, you need to go. And if you ask me if you can stop, and I say, no, you need to keep going, you don't get to get mad about that. All right, let's change directions. Still running sideways, she's not actually going forward. Now she's going forward a little bit. She's just very angry that she's being told what to do. It is the long sort of. She's mad. It doesn't really matter what I ask her to do. She's just mad that I'm asking and enforcing what I'm asking. I'm going to ask her to come down to a walk. Very nice. Excellent. Okay. Go cue didn't work very good. it, right? Stop, you did, but that's all she's been wanting to do from day one. Stop. Better. I didn't have to wave my flag at her. I like that. I'm not out here with the goal of smacking her with the flag. I'm out here with the goal of getting her to do what she needs to do without me having to smack her with the flag. Better. Better. Got some his ears, but hey, her body did exactly what it was supposed to do. There wasn't any question. She's like, oh, I need to cut. I'm going to cut. I might get mad about it, but I'm going to do it. That's a good starting point. Ooh, see that butt coming towards me right there? That's that kick that she always tries to do. Well, not always. It's first time today. But you need to be real careful watching for that. Because a big go-to for her is to swing that butt in toward you, and try to kick your back inside. Go ahead and ask her to watch here. Finish this look when I asked you to. You didn't have to let me, or force me to resort to waving that flag over your butt like that. But. Better. Huh? There we go. So there's obviously a ton more groundwork that needs to be done with this horse. I'm on a pretty limited time frame. I trust her in the riding, so I'm going to go ahead and jump on her. But, you know, I just don't want people to watch this and go, oh, okay, that's where a horse needs to be at in order to get on him and be safe, because she ain't there. There's a lot more work to be done. But like I say, I trust her getting on her. I know how broke she is. I can continue to work on a lot of the things that I'm working on from her back. So we're going to go ahead and do that for today. But, you know, Lauren, what I would say for you taking her back, if you are gonna, you know, at first, Lauren was going to sell this horse. Now she might keep her and train on her a little bit herself. And what I would say for any horse like this, you've got to have really strict boundaries with what, when you say something, it means something. Don't ever let yourself be, just standing around on the ground. Let me back this horse out of my space here a little bit. That's a little bit better. If I'm standing here with this horse and she walks around me one way or the other, don't just be like, oh, stay here, don't move off, right? Do something with that horse. Turn and make him go to work. If she walks off this way, turn and make her go the opposite way. If she's all up in your business here, don't just kind of turn around and be like, stay out of my way. No, turn around and get her out of your way. Make her put in a little more effort. And don't stop that back up until she's back and good. I don't care how far you have to go. If I walk up here and I'm leading her, I'm feeling these reins or a lead rope, whichever, and I'm not going to stop if I'm still dragging on her, right? When I stopped, there was some slack in these reins, and I knew if I picked up a little bit more, she should come. There, now there's slack, now I can stop. So just little things like that. Make sure if you're just standing around with this horse, she should be tuned into you just like she is right now. She should be fairly relaxed, all 4 feet, just stationary on the ground. It's those little things. I think I said in the video yesterday, I'm almost trying to look for fights to pick with her. Like, not that I want to get into a fight. It's maybe the wrong way to say it. But if I'm going to get into a fight, I'd rather get into the fight with something little, like leading or backing on the ground, that I have all the tools in the world to fix and all the time in the world to fix, than to let that stuff slide and she thinks she can run the show and all of a sudden I'm on her back and something big happens. I'm like, no, you need to listen to me now. And she has all this background thinking that, hey, she gets to run the show, not me. That's not going to be fun. So make sure that you're running the show on the ground at all times, so that when you get on her back, that might be the time you can let a few things slip if you even need to. But it needs to be first and foremost in her mind that you run the show, not her. Otherwise, and that's the problem with this horse in general. She's a real nice horse, but she has been ridden by kids and inconsistent riders for so long. It's not that she's trying to be mean. She just doesn't see the rider as being all that important. And frankly, I kind of sympathize with her. It's like if you grew up in, I don't know, Somalia or somewhere that has a horrible functioning government and everything is corrupt, everything's bought on the black market, and that's, you work on the black market, you buy on the black market, that's just how life is, okay? And then you come to America, and we actually have a pretty good functioning government. Most people don't have to break the law just to survive, we could argue about that. But, you could be excused for coming here and thinking, well, of course I break the law. Like, everybody breaks the law. Why wouldn't I break the law? You have to survive because the government's so corrupt, right? It's kind of where her brain is at after being ridden by so many kids and inconsistent riders. And so, Lauren, like I said, I know you already know this stuff. More for my other YouTube followers, if you have a horse that fits that same circumstance, you owe it to your horse right now, today, to become that confident and competent leader. And you don't have to be the best rider in the world. It's not about being an Olympic level dressage rider or something. It's about being consistent with your horse, making sure you have set boundaries, you have expectations. If I do this, my horse needs to do this. And if they do that, they get the reward. It's pretty simple stuff. It's the same as being a good parent. It's the same as being a good boss. It's just being a good human being. But you owe that to your horse to start doing that today, if you haven't already. Or if you have a horse that maybe you just gotten and it's never really experienced that consistent leadership that makes it really trust in you, you need to start showing that to your horse. So, I forgot to take my phone out. Okay, let's move to the writing portion of today. Okay, so a couple things I just want to talk about real quick. So that backup right there directly correlates to the backup we did at the beginning of the session on the ground earlier, right? So I'm not going to ask this backup to be any better than that one was because I have much more tools on the ground, right? So she did back up. She softened her face a little. I'm okay with that for right now for being on her back. One thing I wanted to note for Lauren, when you get this horse back and you're working on her yourself, twice now, both times I picked up the trot. I think I was outside of the camera both times, but I asked her to trot. I squeeze up a little bit. I think I clugged. But I basically gave, just like on the ground, I would point, I would build my energy, and then I'm going to get after her, right? So kind of 1, 2, 3 type of ask. Same thing on her back. I build my energy, I squeezed up my legs, I got my spurs on just a little bit. It's like, there's the trot right there, but she still wasn't trotting. She was just being real lazy, just like, F you, whatever, blah, blah. And so then I just jabbed her with my spurs, and she jumped pretty good. She's like, "Wah!" But she went into the trot, and then next time I did the same thing. And so I'm just going to keep doing that. But again, it's not just boom. Don't just hit them with your spurs. Like that's just going to make them jumpy. Make sure there's the ask, the reinforce, and then now I'm going to get after you. And it's just everything we're doing on her back should correlate directly to the groundwork. The groundwork, I pointed, brought up my energy. All right, now I'm going to whack you with the whip. I don't know what else to tell you. Good. That time she picked up that trot without me having to whack her. Every single time you stop, make sure every time you stop and back up, which should be every time you stop again, make sure she brings her head down and backs up before you release. Because this works right now, I'm sure so many kids sit on her and just pull on the reins, and she races like that, and then they release the reins, and she thinks, okay, so every time somebody pulls on the reins, I should brace my neck and put my nose out and pull as hard as I can against the reins, and then they'll release. That's what she's been trained to do, okay? So you've got to untrain that, because what's going to happen, and I have a pretty good friend who, so it's a mom and a daughter, and the daughter, I don't know, was probably 15 or something like that. And she pulled back on her horse. She had just tacked up. She's in the kind of the alleyway. She just tacked up. She got on. She pulled back, and her horse flipped over backwards. Now, I know that horse, and I know the reason is it's already a pretty bracy head up in the air kind of a horse, very similar to this one. Now, she carries her head much lower when she's going around, but when you pull on the reins, she can really brace up. Just like when you're on the ground and you try to lead her forward, what does she do? She pulls against it, right? So she's a very back bracy type of horse, and you can see if you look at her back when there's no saddle on, these backstrap muscles are very developed. She has a lot of strength pulling her back up like this, right? So if you actually get in a bad situation where you've really got to pull on these reins, and you keep pulling and you keep pulling, there's a fair likelihood that she's going to engage this back so much and lift and lift and lift and lift, and where can it go after that? It goes over backwards. That's not fun. The way to get around that is every time you pull back on these reins and you go to back up, make sure, not yet, right there. So initially what I got was tension here and lowering of the shoulder, and elevating of the head, and then it reversed and the head went down and this came up. That's when you want to release. Okay, I have a few exercises I want to try with her. I'm not going to talk through all these. I want to try a few different things and see what kind of results I get here. So I'm going to try a few different, more advanced exercises here. was pretty good. I'm quite certain when she first got here, we couldn't have done that. That's pretty cool. So I hope you can kind of see everything that's happening in the video. You probably couldn't see up in this corner, but that's okay. There wasn't too much going on there. But she's doing pretty good. Her right side trotting and loping is always not very good compared to her left side. Like she can trot lope a left circle a lot easier than she can trot lope a right circle. Her balance just isn't very good, left to right. Coming down this wall, well, really, as we start going around that corner and then we start coming down this wall, she gets very anxious, and you can tell it because her ears get pinned forward, and she's not thinking about me anymore. Most of the time, as we've been going around in here, her ears have been kind of like they are now, kind of all over the place, and thinking about me, thinking about other things, very aware, which is what I want. And so most of the day's gone pretty good. But when you're riding down, if you're on a trail, like, so Lauren asked me about, has she spooked yet? And the answer is no, she hasn't really, like, boom, out from under me spooked, But it's because I know the warning signs and I've worked on it. So like coming down this rail, her ears got pinned on, I think, this blanket that's flapping in the wind over here. But it doesn't really matter what it is. The point is, as I'm riding and I'm kind of tweaking the reins, I'm kind of using my legs and keeping her straight and everything. Normally her ears kind of work back towards me, back and forth as we're doing those things. Over on this wall, no, ears pinned forward. Well, I know if my horse is so totally concentrated on that they're not aware of anything else, and we come up, there might be something here that's so scary that she's going to spook. So you know you're getting into what could be a bad situation. And second, she may just spook because of the daggum fact that you're on top of her, and she's been so thinking about whatever's scaring her. And when you finally come back into the picture, oh my gosh, what's that? Like, you may spook her, basically. So make sure, the question is then, how did I ride around this corner without her spooking out from under me? Well, it's because I kept working the reins. I kept putting a little inside bend in her face, kept working maybe some outside bend if I think I can. And I've been doing so much other work that these reins can override what's going on with her. And my feet can also drive her up and get her to collect up in her back and drop her head a little bit. And all those little things 2 weeks ago, every one of those things would have made her arch her back and stick her head up in the air, which would only make her more nervous, give me less control, make everything tighter, because adding leg made her stick her head up in the air 2 weeks ago. Pulling on the reins made her brace her neck 2 weeks ago, right? Now all those things are starting to mean soften, like that. Soften, right? That doesn't mean she's never going to spook out from under me, but I guess what I'm trying to say is, it's a trick answer to that question, because no, she's never spooked out from under me. But you put an inexperienced rider or a kid on her, and they don't know any better, they don't know what her ears mean, and they just ride her around this corner, she probably would have spooked out from under her, because they would have ridden right up that blanket. She would have been like, what is that? What is that? What is that? Oh my goodness, bam, and then she would have spooked out from under her. So anyway, like I say, it's a trick question. But overall, she's doing pretty good. Let's do a little bit more. This time her ears haven't locked down there, so that's very cool. Excellent. So that time was way different. Her ears would lock forward just a little bit, and then one would flip back to me and be like, "Oh, do you need anything? No, okay. Oh, that's kind of scary. But do you need anything? Oh, that's kind of scary, right?" They're going back and forth. That is beautiful. Okay, so what I was doing in that circle is something that you can do, Lauren, at home with her a lot, and your other people watching this should be able to do it too. Get good back up here first. Yeah, it was a little bit better. It wasn't great. as you're trotting around like that, add a little bit of leg, get her moving out as much as you can, just like we do on the ground. And then take your hands out to the side and just kind of tickle that bit, just like that. And you're not, I don't want you to think training her to put her head down. That's not what it is. It's asking for that neck to relax is really what it is. Because we're doing two things at once. We're adding energy through her body, but we're asking the neck to relax. And that's going to really get her to use her abs and use her body correctly. Because horses have two ways of moving. They can either move using the correct muscles to actually move their body, like their abs and their legs, or they can get stiff in their neck and they can use the counterbalance to just throw their legs forward. And that's what a lot of horses out there do, is their neck is super stiff and they just use it as a counterbalance to just throw their legs around. And it's not an athletic way to move at all. So if we can encourage them, because right rein means to loosen your neck, left rein means to loosen your neck, right? Now that's on a very slow scale, right pull and a left pull. But if we start to put that together and we just kind of tickle both sides, watch what happens. She starts to lower her head. See how her neck relaxed right there just a little bit? That's just flies. Flies are kind of bad in here today. So if you do that at the trot, and you keep her moving faster, and you keep encouraging her to relax her neck, notice I'm not saying to lower her head, but to relax her neck, you'll start to get her to move out better. One thing that's a different line. Lauren said about this horse is her trot is so rough, and it is, but it doesn't have to be. Her trot's only rough because of the way she uses her body. Her trot is already significantly smoother, and I'm making it smoother every time by doing this exercise. So I'm going to go back into a left circle here. I'm going to do a little bit more of that. I just wanted to explain what I'm doing there. Okay, so this trot's pretty rough. Now I'm going to start asking her to speed up and loosen her neck. So that's not working incredibly well yet, but it will get there. She still has too much tension in her neck to really accept it, because really we're offering her this relaxation, we're not telling her, and that's something you kind of got to get a feel in your hands. Is it's easy to get too pulley with your hands in this exercise and be like, get your head down, and that's not it at all. It's just, hey, will you relax a little bit? Oh, cool, there's a relax, and let go. Now speed up a little bit. Can you relax into it just a little bit? Cool, there's relax. Just touching the reins, not pulling, not forcing anything. If she's not ready for it, she's not ready for it. Like I said, that didn't work super well right there because she's still pretty tension and looky and stuff. And so I'm offering her that relaxation, but she's not really quite in a place to take it yet today. That's fine. We'll keep working on that. I'm going to get to a little bit of loping. Probably call it a day. I think we've been going quite a while. So. All right, not bad. I'm actually pretty happy with that looping. That was on the left side, which is her good side. Give her a little rest here, and then we'll go lope on the right side. But yeah, if I can keep that up, I can actually start to get to some more cool stuff to work on if I can lope like that. So, not bad. Oh my gosh, she's unbalanced. I'm not going to keep fighting with her in that right lead today. There's a lot of exercises that I need to do to get her to pick up that right lead. I'm just not going to fight about it today. She looked really good for me in the left lead. I'm going to spend my time working on the exercises, not just fighting to get that lead. And the exercises I'm talking about is controlling her hind end and her shoulders. So especially her shoulders, I can get control of pretty good. I can pick her up and move her shoulders to the outside like that pretty easily. What I can't do right now is put my left leg on and have her hind end push up underneath her and up to the inside of the circle. So let's see, I'll try to get here where the camera can see. I should be able to put this left leg back, and that happens, and that's good at the standstill. That's got to start happening at the walk and then the trot, and that's how I'm going to be able to pick up that load. And right now, it's just not. Everything behind it is falling out to my left. And you can't get the load like that. There you go. Sure. That's very good. I'm going to be done there for today. She gave me a lot of good work today. I always say 1% improvement per day will get you 100% improvement over 100 days. I don't think a mathematician came up with that phrase, but it did. So if you remember back to the beginning of the session, I had quite a bit of fight with her on the ground, right? And I said I was almost kind of looking for those fights, not because I want to fight with her, but because if I'm going to have a fight, which I think I am because she's the type of horse she is, I'd rather find those issues on the ground and convince her that I'm actually in charge rather than waiting until I was under saddle. So you notice there were quite a few times, like when I was trying to back her, under saddle I'm talking about, when I was lifting her shoulders, when I was moving her hips, even asking for that right lead, even though I never quite got that. You know, like I said earlier, I'm going to be super diligent about winning every single fight on the ground, so that maybe I can let some things slide under saddle. And I let it slide that she never actually picked up the right lead, because she tried for me. She did a lot of good things today. But if I had let everything slide on the ground, I would have had to pick some real fights under saddle, and I would have been whipping and spurring and having to do the same things I did on the ground, but from the saddle, and it would have been a lot worse. So I just encourage you guys, pick your fights on the ground. Be very diligent about what are my ground rules. What do I want my horse to do? If it does this, it gets a reward. If it does this, it gets more pressure. You know. Anyway. Thanks for watching. It's been a long video already, so apologize, but thank you guys if you've stuck with me this whole time. We'll go ahead and say goodbye till tomorrow.